Echoes in the Enclave. Elara, a data archivist for Omnicorp, felt the pervasive tranquility like a soft blanket. Yet, beneath its comforting weight, a cold current of unease had begun to ripple. It started subtly, fragmented visions in her dreams. Not nightmares, but echoes. Flashes of rough stone, vibrant, clashing colors, the raw sound of unbridled laughter, and the sharp tang of real, biting sorrow. These sensations were alien to the Enclave's programmed peace. They were forbidden. She would wake with a tremor, a phantom ache in her chest that the morning's perfectly balanced nutrient paste could not soothe. Omnicorp's daily neural cleanse, a gentle hum that permeated every residential unit, usually washed away any lingering dissonance. But lately, the echoes persisted. They whispered to her, urging her to look beyond the chrome reflections. The Enclave itself was a marvel of engineered precision. Elevated walkways, smooth and shimmering, crisscrossed between towering spires that kissed the perpetually clear sky. Automated transport pods glided silently, ferrying citizens from their immaculate living modules to their designated work sectors. Every surface gleamed, sanitized, and devoid of imperfection. The air was filtered, breathable, but lacked the raw scent of rain on earth or the salty tang of an ocean breeze. It was a sterile perfection, maintained by Omnicorp, the omnipresent corporation that provided everything: sustenance, shelter, purpose, and peace. For years, Elara had accepted this peace. She processed streams of historical data, meticulously edited and refined by Omnicorp's algorithms to present a narrative of seamless progression, a history without conflict or difficult truths. Her days were a methodical rhythm of data streams, soft keyboard clicks, and the gentle hum of the central server. Her assigned leisure hours were filled with pleasant, predictable recreation, virtual reality nature walks, carefully curated musical compositions, or polite, structured social interactions in communal lounges. No sudden spikes of anger, no overwhelming despair, no uncontrolled bursts of joy ever marred the Enclave's placid surface. And she, like everyone else, had been content. But the echoes had begun. They were like glitches in the perfect simulation. One morning, while compiling data on historical agricultural efficiency, a sudden flash of vibrant green, the chaotic texture of real soil, and the scent of damp earth overwhelmed her senses. It was gone in an instant, replaced by the sterile data, but the sensation lingered, a phantom memory. Another time, during a mandatory, community harmony session, a wave of profound, unspoken grief washed over her, so potent it almost buckled her knees. It felt like a memory that wasn't hers, yet deeply familiar. She started seeking quiet corners. The archival department had forgotten sublevels, remnants of an older, less polished Omnicorp design. These unrefined spaces, with their rough concrete walls and exposed conduit pipes, felt oddly comforting compared to the relentless sheen above. In these forgotten alcoves, the neural cleanse felt weaker. The air felt heavier, almost real. During her designated, personal exploration hours, Elara found herself drawn to the edges of the Enclave, to the boundary known only as the Fringe. This was where the city's perfection frayed. Automated maintenance drones struggled to keep the wild growth at bay. Patches of unmanaged flora, untamed by Omnicorp's geneticists, pushed through cracks in the chrome. The air here was thicker, carrying the faint, wild scent of decaying leaves and untamed life. It was a subtle assault on the senses, a world unfiltered. One evening, deep within the Fringe, following a faint, persistent whisper that only she seemed to hear, Elara stumbled upon an old, abandoned data relay station. It was rusted, overgrown, its energy core long dark. A surge of the echoes hit her, a cacophony of voices, not digital, but raw with emotion. Fear. Laughter. Despair. Hope. It was overwhelming, like a dam breaking. She collapsed, clutching her head, as the forbidden sensations flooded her mind. When the wave subsided, she looked up. Standing over her were two figures, cloaked in muted, organic fabrics that seemed to absorb the dim light of the fringe. One, a woman, had eyes that burned with a fierce, knowing intensity. Her hair, a vibrant shock of crimson, seemed almost rebellious against the Enclave's subdued palette. This was Lyra. The other, a man, was lean and watchful, his face shadowed, but his hands moved with an almost unsettling speed as he calibrated a small, complex device. This was Rory. They were the echoes. The resonance and the obelisks. You hear them, don't you? Lyra's voice was low, resonant, like a chord struck deep within the earth. It was a voice that vibrated with genuine emotion, a stark contrast to the modulated tones of the Enclave. The memories. The feelings. The resonance. Elara stared, utterly stunned. What are you?" she whispered, her voice hoarse, still trembling from the sensory overload. Rory stepped forward, his device humming softly. "We are the truth," he stated, his voice calm, technical. "And so are you, Elara. We've been watching. You possess a rare sensitivity to the suppressed data. The resonance is strong within you." Lyra knelt, her gaze piercing Elara's. Omnicorp built this city on a lie. They didn't just filter history. They filtered humanity. They harvested our collective memories, our painful emotions, our uncontrolled joys, and buried them. To maintain their perfect enclave, they drained us of our true selves. Elara's mind reeled. But, why? Why would they do that? Control, Lyra spat the word, a rare, raw emotion flashing in her eyes. True emotions are messy. They lead to conflict, to change, to unpredictability. Omnicorp thrives on order. So, they created the neural dampeners. And they stored the collective consciousness, the true history of our people, in massive data constructs. They call them the obelisks. Rory gestured to a holographic schematic projected from his device. It showed a central, fortified structure at the very heart of the Enclave, known as the core. From it, faint, shimmering lines spread outward, reaching every corner of the city. These lines are the conduits for the neural dampeners. And within the core, powered by the lifeblood of the Enclave, are the obelisks. They are monolithic data towers, constantly processing and suppressing the resonance. They are the heart of Omnicorp's lie. Elara looked at the schematic, then back at Lyra and Rory. The implications were staggering. Her entire life, the lives of everyone in the Enclave, had been a controlled existence, devoid of true experience. The comfort she had known was a gilded cage. "We believe," Lyra continued, her voice filled with quiet determination, "that if the resonance can be channeled, if it can be amplified enough, it can overload the obelisks. It can flood the Enclave with the suppressed memories, the raw emotions. It can wake everyone up. And you," Rory added, "are essential to this. Your natural sensitivity is a gift. We can teach you to harness it, to become a conduit for the resonance." Elara's decision was not made lightly. The fear of the unknown, the terrifying thought of shattering the only reality she had ever known, was immense. But the echoes within her, the yearning for the vibrant, messy truths they hinted at, pushed her forward. She joined the echoes. The training ground. The echoes operated from a sprawling network of hidden caverns and forgotten sublevels beneath the fringe. This was their true sanctuary, a chaotic, organic contrast to the sterile Enclave above. The air here was thick with the scent of damp earth, repurposed machinery, and the faint, metallic tang of raw energy. Walls were adorned with crude, vibrant murals painted with scavenged pigments, depicting forgotten landscapes, faces contorted in genuine laughter or sorrow, and abstract bursts of chaotic color. There was no chrome here, no seamless perfection. Instead, it was a space of rough beauty, echoing the very emotions they sought to reclaim. Her training was arduous, pushing her far beyond the gentle limits of Enclave life. Lyra became her primary guide, teaching her to quiet her mind and listen to the subtle whispers of the resonance. It wasn't about controlling the echoes, Lyra explained, but about accepting them, allowing them to flow through her. The resonance is not a weapon, Elara, Lyra would say, her eyes intense. It's the truth. And the truth, when unleashed, is chaotic and beautiful and powerful. Rory, the resident tech expert, supplemented her training with practical applications. He designed complex resonance amplifiers, sleek, handheld devices that helped Elara focus and direct the waves of memory. He taught her about OmniCorp security protocols, their neural networks, and the subtle vulnerabilities within the obelisks themselves. His lab was a fascinating mess of exposed wires, glowing circuits, and salvaged OmniCorp tech repurposed for liberation. Elara learned to meditate in deep silence, pushing past the constant, low hum of the dampeners. She practiced channeling the echoes, letting fragmented memories wash over her, not to be overwhelmed, but to understand. She would experience flashes of historical moments the Enclave had erased, the warmth of real sunlight on skin, the taste of wild fruit, the sound of music not algorithmically generated but born from raw human creativity. She learned to differentiate between the faint, distant hum of the suppressed resonance and the harsh, jarring static of OmniCorp's dampening fields. Sometimes, the training was overwhelming. The sheer volume of suppressed emotion, the collective sadness and anger of generations, threatened to consume her. She would collapse, gasping, her mind reeling from the sensory overload. Lyra would be there, a steadying hand, a calming voice, reminding her to breathe, to ground herself in the present. Rory would monitor her neural readings, ensuring her bioneural interfaces didn't fray under the strain. He taught her how to build mental walls, not to suppress, but to manage the flow. During this time, Elara truly came to know Lyra and Rory. Lyra, beneath her fierce exterior, carried a quiet, ancient sorrow, hinting at a profound connection to the forgotten past. She was driven by an unshakable belief in true human experience. Rory, though outwardly pragmatic and detached, revealed flashes of deep empathy, particularly for the lost memories. He often spoke of a fragment of a lullaby he once heard in an echo, a melody that sparked a longing he couldn't explain. They were more than just rebels, they were a family, forged in the shared pursuit of forgotten truth. OmniCorp's shadow. OmniCorp, however, was not idly watching. Commander Kageyama, the head of OmniCorp security, was a figure of cold, unyielding precision. His movements were always economical, his voice a low, steady rumble that commanded absolute obedience. He operated with the ruthless efficiency of a machine. Kageyama had sensed the growing anomaly in the Enclave's data streams, the subtle, localized disruptions in the neural network that hinted at an awakening. He didn't understand the why, but he understood the what, a threat to OmniCorp's perfect order. Working under Kageyama, but with his own subtle agenda, was Silas Vane, OmniCorp's chief architect of the neural dampening system. Vane was a genius, a man who understood the intricate dance between consciousness and control better than anyone. He was less about physical force and more about elegant, psychological manipulation. Vane saw the echoes as an interesting, if dangerous, aberration. He was fascinated by Elara's unique sensitivity. He considered it a flaw in his perfect system, a flaw he intended to exploit or eliminate. He had installed advanced resonance trackers across the Enclave, subtle energy fields that could detect even faint surges of awakened emotion. He called them harmonic sensors. The hunt intensified. Several fringe outposts, small, temporary safe houses used by the echoes, were suddenly and violently breached by Kageyama's elite security units. The neural dampeners in those areas would surge, causing localized suppression fields that disoriented anyone with active resonance. Rory had designed counter-frequencies, but they were often barely enough. The echoes learned to move like ghosts, always adapting, always hiding. One close call occurred when Alara, accompanied by Rory on a supply run, was almost caught in a collapsing tunnel. Kageyama's forces had located an old access point. Omnicorp drones, silent and deadly, swarmed the narrow passage. Rory, with his quick thinking, rerouted power to an unstable structural beam, causing a controlled collapse that bought them precious seconds. Alara felt the drone's energy pulse graze her, a chilling cold that momentarily dulled her senses, a taste of Omnicorp's power. She realized then the immense danger they were in, and the true stakes of their mission. Silas Vane's pursuit was not just about control. It was about scientific curiosity, a desire to understand and then eradicate the flaw in his perfect design. The grand design. The plan to awaken the core was audacious, almost suicidal. The obelisks were not just data towers, they were protected by layers of Omnicorp's most advanced security, both physical and digital. They needed to access 3 specific obelisks within the core, activating them in precise sequence. This would create a cascading overload of the neural dampeners, releasing a full, unfiltered wave of the resonance across the entire enclave. Rory had spent years mapping the core's hidden access tunnels, its forgotten service conduits, its blind spots in the security network. He spoke of the architects, the original designers of the enclave, whose subtle design flaws were now being exploited by the echoes. They built a prison, Rory had mused one night, poring over complex schematics projected onto a cavern wall, but even they couldn't anticipate the human need for escape. Or perhaps, they left us a way out. The plan relied on Alara's heightened resonance. Only she, with her unique sensitivity and Lyra's training, could channel the raw energy required to activate the obelisks. Rory's devices would act as conduits, amplifying her resonance to critical levels. Lyra and other seasoned echoes would create diversions, drawing Kageyama's forces away from the main target. A vital component was a relic from the old world, a physical artifact they called the harmonic key. It wasn't truly a key in the traditional sense, but an ancient, organic crystal that resonated powerfully with untamed emotions. Hiroki, an elder of the echoes, retrieved it from a deeply hidden vault in the old world's ruins, a place Omnicorp considered too unstable to even monitor. This crystal, when fused with Alara's resonance, would provide the necessary pure, uncorrupted emotional spike to bypass the obelisk's final safeguards. Its rough, unpolished surface felt warm and alive in Alara's palm, a stark contrast to the sterile perfection of the Enclave. The final weeks of preparation were a blur of intense focus. Alara spent hours in deep resonance, visualizing the core, mapping its energy flows in her mind. She practiced channeling specific emotional states into the harmonic key, not just passion, but grief, defiance, ecstatic joy, pure, unadulterated fear. She learned to mix them, to create a complex symphony of feeling that would shatter the simple, constant hum of the dampeners. The task was exhausting, draining her physically and emotionally, leaving her often in a state of hyper-awareness, seeing the world in a sharper, more vivid light than before. Lyra would sometimes find her simply staring at a rock in the cavern, mesmerized by its rough texture, a sensation previously suppressed. "You're almost ready," Lyra told her one evening, watching Alara's hands trace invisible patterns in the air. "The fear will be immense. The joy, overwhelming. You must hold on to yourself, Alara. Remember why you do this." Alara nodded. She remembered the blank faces of the Enclave citizens, their forced contentment. She remembered the raw echoes that had disturbed her own peace. She would do this for them. For the truth. Infiltration of the core. The night of the infiltration was a symphony of hushed movements and pulsing adrenaline. The air in the fringe was thick with a fine mist, perfect for obscuring their approach. They moved through forgotten service tunnels, their footsteps echoing softly in the damp darkness. Rory led the way, his portable scanner painting a ghostly green map of the labyrinthine pathways. Lyra, Her face a mask of fierce determination, commanded the small team of echoes that formed their vanguard. The core rose before them, a black, impenetrable obelisk of pure obsidian, seamless and foreboding. It seemed to absorb all light, a symbol of Omnicorp's absolute power. Security turrets, nearly invisible, dotted its surface, their optical sensors sweeping the perimeter with silent, precise beams. The hum of the dampeners here was a tangible pressure, a suffocating weight on Alara's senses, trying to push down her growing resonance. Rory found their entry point. A rarely used waste conduit, its heavy blast door sealed with multiple layers of Omnicorp's latest encryption. "This will be tricky," he whispered, his fingers flying across his interface. Vane upgraded the old architect schematics. As Rory worked, Lyra positioned her team. They were armed with custom-built resonance emitters, designed to create localized disturbances, small echo bursts that would draw security away. "Remember," she instructed, her voice low and firm, "we don't engage unless absolutely necessary. Our goal is diversion. Alara needs time." The blast door hissed, grinding open just enough for them to slip through. The air inside the conduit was stale and metallic. They moved through narrow service shafts, past humming power lines and dormant maintenance drones. Alara felt the core's presence now, an immense, thrumming force that vibrated through the very metal of the walls. It was the collective weight of millions of suppressed lives. Their first diversion went off flawlessly. A powerful echo burst detonated in a lower-level data nexus, causing a localized power surge and a flurry of automated security responses. Lights flashed red on Rory's scanner. "Kageyama's forces are moving to contain it," he murmured. "Good. We have a window." They navigated maintenance catwalks high above cavernous server farms, where endless rows of silent, glowing data arrays hummed with the steady drone of suppression. Alara could almost feel the tendrils of the neural dampeners reaching out, trying to touch her mind, to smooth away her purpose. She clutched the harmonic key, its rough warmth a stark contrast to the cold precision around her. Their path led them to a central chamber, vast and cylindrical, where the three primary obelisks stood. They were massive, obsidian towers, reaching up into the unseen ceiling, their surfaces glowing with a faint, hypnotic blue light. They pulsed with a rhythmic, oppressive hum, the very heart of Omnicorp's control. Omnicorp security personnel, their sleek black uniforms blending with the shadows, patrolled the circular platforms surrounding the obelisks. "All right," Rory breathed, pointing. "Each obelisk has a primary access port. We need to insert the resonance amplifiers into all three, then Alara will channel the harmonic key." Suddenly, the silence was shattered. A klaxon blared. Red warning lights strobed across the chamber. "Intruder alert. Core sector." From a high vantage point, a figure descended on an anti-grav platform. It was Commander Kageyama. His face was a mask of cold fury. Beside him, gliding with an unnerving smoothness, was Silas Vane. His eyes, behind sleek optical implants, gleamed with an almost predatory interest as they fixed on Alara. The anomaly, Kageyama's voice echoed, cold and resonant. "The echoes. You lead them, Alara." Vane chuckled, a dry, almost intellectual sound. "Fascinating. The system detected a unique resonance signature converging. A flaw in our perfection. A beautiful, dangerous flaw. The climax, echoes resurgent." Kageyama gave a curt hand signal. Omnicorp enforcers, their neural dampeners amplified, charged forward. Their movements were impossibly fast, precise. Lyra and her team immediately engaged, creating a whirlwind of tactical diversions. They deployed sound-based echo emitters, sending jarring frequencies that disrupted the enforcers' implants. Flashes of light burst, creating temporary blind spots. The chamber erupted into a controlled chaos. "Go!" Lyra yelled, tackling an enforcer with surprising strength. "We'll buy you time." Rory moved with incredible speed, already at the base of the first obelisk. He inserted a sleek resonance amplifier into its glowing access port. The obelisk shuddered, its blue light flickering. "One down," he shouted over the escalating sounds of combat. Elara moved to the second obelisk, her heart pounding. The presence of Kageyama and Vane was a chilling weight. She could feel Vane's mind, like a probe, trying to analyze her resonance, to understand it, to ultimately counteract it. As she reached the second obelisk, a sudden, powerful surge of neural dampening hit her. It was stronger than anything she had ever felt, a concentrated beam aimed directly at her. Her mind screamed. Her bioneural interfaces flared with agonizing heat. She staggered, the harmonic key almost slipping from her grasp. Silas Vane stood on a nearby platform, a small, elegant device in his hand. A faint, almost imperceptible red beam emanated from it, striking Elara. "The resonance is merely chaotic energy, Elara." Vane's voice was calm, almost soothing, despite the agony he inflicted. "We can dampen it. We can reroute it. We can make it quiescent." He wanted to study her, to understand the secret of her power, perhaps even to replicate it for Omnicorp's control. "You won't break her," Rory yelled, rushing forward, a blast from a repurposed energy tool striking Vane's device. Vane stumbled, the red beam wavered. The dampening pressure on Elara eased just enough for her to gasp. With renewed resolve, fueled by anger and defiance, Elara plunged the second amplifier into the obelisk's port. The second tower shuddered, its light pulsing erratically, its deep hum turning into a broken, grinding sound. "Two down. One more." Commander Kageyama, seeing the imminent failure, abandoned the main fight. He moved with chilling speed, a blur of black uniform and cold fury, directly towards Elara and the last obelisk. He drew a sleek, energy-charged blade, its edge humming with raw power. "You will not undo Omnicorp's peace." Kageyama roared, his voice devoid of his usual calm. "The Enclave's tranquility will be maintained." Elara turned, the harmonic key clutched tight. She knew this was it. The final stand. She could see Lyra and Rory still fighting, pushing back the enforcers, buying her precious seconds. She focused, not on the physical threat, but on the obelisk. It was a conduit. A prison. Kageyama lunged. His blade slashed through the air, aimed directly at the comm shard integrated into Elara's arm. If he severed her connection, it was over. But Elara was no longer just a data archivist. She was an echo. She moved with an instinctive grace, a defensive maneuver learned from Lyra, swaying just enough to avoid the deadly arc. As Kageyama's momentum carried him past, Elara lunged for the third obelisk. With a final, desperate surge of will, she plunged the last resonance amplifier into the third obelisk's port. The three towers shuddered in unison. Their blue light flared erratically, then pulsed with a terrifying, vibrant crimson. The hum became a deafening roar. Then, Elara plunged the harmonic key into the central amplifier, channeling all her amplified resonance through it. She felt a blinding flash, a surge of pure, raw energy. It was every memory, every forgotten tear, every suppressed laugh, every moment of triumph and despair, flooding into her, and through her, into the obelisks. The obelisks screamed. Their obsidian surfaces cracked, spiderweb patterns of pure light spreading across them. The core itself began to tremble. And across the Enclave, the lie broke. The omnipresent hum of the neural dampeners fractured, then vanished. A silent, invisible wave of pure, unfiltered resonance, carrying centuries of suppressed humanity, washed over the entire city. The effect was instantaneous and cataclysmic. Citizens, mid-sentence in pleasant conversation, froze. Their serene expressions shattered. Faces twisted. Eyes widened with shock, then confusion, then a kaleidoscope of raw, uncontrollable emotion. Some fell to their knees, clutching their heads as forgotten memories flooded their minds. Others burst into spontaneous, uncontrollable laughter, or wept tears of pure, unadulterated sorrow. In the bustling marketplaces, the automated transport pods veered erratically as their passengers were overcome. In the immaculate residential towers, screams and shouts erupted. The Enclave, once a picture of perfect harmony, plunged into a beautiful, terrifying chaos. Commander Kageyama, still on the platform, staggered. His own eyes, usually so cold, now flickered with a sudden, agonizing memory, a flash of an old battlefield, the acrid smell of burning metal, a loved one's desperate cry. The shock buckled his knees. Silas Vane, his face contorted not with pain but with a terrifying, almost manic glee, watched the chaos. Magnificent, he whispered, a dangerous glint in his eye. The flaw is perfect. But even Vane was momentarily overwhelmed, his analytical mind struggling to process the sheer volume of unfiltered data now flooding the network. The dawn of true humanity. Elara collapsed, gasping for breath, the harmonic key falling from her numb fingers. The pain in her head was immense, but it was interwoven with a thrilling, chaotic joy. She could feel it, the city awakening. The air vibrated with a million nascent emotions, a symphony of humanity finally unleashed. Lyra and Rory rushed to her side. "It's done," Lyra breathed, her voice hoarse with awe. "You did it, Elara. The obelisks, they're fracturing." Rory's scanner showed critical system failures across the core. "The dampeners are offline city-wide," he shouted, a rare smile breaking through his usual stoicism. "Omnicorp's network is in freefall." The Obsidian Hand, Omnicorp's security forces, were in utter disarray. Their neural implants, designed to enhance focus and suppress emotion, were now bombarded by the very resonance they were meant to contain. Some enforcers stood frozen, reliving painful memories. Others collapsed, overwhelmed. The efficient machine of Omnicorp's control had broken down. Kageyama, slowly regaining his composure, stared at Elara with an expression Elara had never seen before, a chilling mix of fury and, impossibly, a flicker of profound regret. "You have doomed us all," he rasped, his voice rough. "You have unleashed chaos." But before Kageyama could recover fully, Lyra and Rory moved Elara. They plunged into a newly opened service tunnel, created by the power fluctuations in the core. The passage was dark, unstable, but it offered escape. Behind them, the sounds of Omnicorp's forces struggling to regain control echoed through the core. They emerged into the sprawling, unkempt expanse of the fringe. The ground beneath their feet was rough earth, not polished chrome. The air was cool, damp, and carried the wild scent of growth. Above, the Enclave's spires, once symbols of perfect order, now shimmered erratically, their holographic projections flickering like dying stars. From every direction, the sounds of awakening echoed, screams of confusion, shouts of anger, bursts of pure, unrestrained laughter, and the undeniable sound of people weeping with a depth of feeling long forgotten. Elara's head still throbbed. Her implants were permanently damaged, perhaps beyond repair. The immediate rush of the resonance had faded, leaving her exhausted but clear-headed. She looked at Lyra, her face streaked with dust and sweat, but her eyes alight with fierce hope. She looked at Rory, already setting up a temporary comm station, his brow furrowed with planning. The fight wasn't over. This was just the beginning. The Enclave, now exposed to its own true history, its own raw emotions, would be a place of immense upheaval. There would be fear, conflict, and pain as generations of suppressed feelings surfaced. But there would also be a chance for genuine connection, for real love, for art that spoke from the soul, for a future not dictated by a corporate algorithm. Elara knew her role had changed forever. She was no longer just an archivist. She was no longer just an echo, a recipient of fragmented truths. She was a catalyst. A living symbol of the shattered lie. Her purpose was not to return to the false peace of the Enclave, but to guide its newly awakened citizens through the tumultuous journey of rediscovering their own humanity. The path ahead was long, fraught with danger, and profoundly uncertain. But for the first time in her life, Elara felt truly, terrifyingly, wonderfully alive. The Enclave, once a perfectly silent cage, was now filled with the glorious, chaotic symphony of awakened souls. And she, Elara, was ready to help them compose the next movement of their true history.